You're thinking about retiring abroad. Lower costs, better weather, slower pace of life, and within weeks, reality hits. Healthcare is a mess, the paperwork never ends, locals treat you like an outsider with a wallet, and suddenly that dream retirement feels like a very expensive mistake. If you're an American even considering retiring overseas, this video is for you. Because here's the part nobody warns you about. Some countries look perfect on YouTube thumbnails and travel blogs, but are brutal places to actually grow old. The rules change constantly. Your money doesn't stretch, and simple things like banking, visas, property turn into full-time stress. So today, we're breaking down 10 countries Americans should never retire to, and the reasons might surprise you. Stick around because number 3 catches almost everyone off guard. And if you want to retire smarter, not harder, hit subscribe, and let's get into it. 10. Cambodia. Cambodia shows up on a lot of cheap retirement lists, and on the surface it makes sense. Rent can be shockingly low. Food is affordable. You can live comfortably on a fraction of what you'd spend in the US. And for a short visit, it can feel like a dream. But retiring somewhere and vacationing somewhere are two very different games. And Cambodia is where that difference hits hard. Let's start with healthcare. Cambodia's medical system is extremely limited. For anything serious, most expats hop on a plane to Thailand or Singapore. That's fine, until it's an emergency. Then there's infrastructure. Power outages are common. Internet reliability depends heavily on where you live. Roads outside major areas can be rough, and basic services don't always function the way Americans expect. Legal protections are another issue people gloss over. Property ownership is complicated. Contracts can be shaky, and if something goes wrong, you're not exactly dealing with a system that favors foreigners. Culturally, Cambodia is polite and welcoming on the surface, but deep integration is rare. Many retirees end up in expat bubbles, disconnected from locals and strangely isolated. If you've been to Cambodia and had a different experience, drop a comment. But if this one surprised you, just wait. Because the next country is one a lot of Americans assume is safer and easier than it actually is. 9. Colombia. Colombia has done an incredible job rebranding itself. Medellin in particular gets hyped as a modern, affordable paradise with perfect weather and friendly people. But retiring here long-term comes with layers of complexity that don't always show up in glossy YouTube videos. Safety is the big one. Yes, Colombia is safer than it used to be, but that doesn't mean it's safe in the way most Americans define the word. Crime is still a daily consideration. Express kidnappings, phone thefts, scams, and targeted crimes against foreigners are real issues. And retirees are often seen as easy targets, especially if they don't speak fluent Spanish. Speaking of Spanish, this is not a country where you can coast on English. Outside expat-heavy neighborhoods, you're expected to communicate in Spanish, handle bureaucracy in Spanish, and navigate legal and medical systems in Spanish. And here's the part nobody likes to talk about: instability. Political shifts, protests, sudden changes to rules and taxes, it keeps you on edge. And if this feels controversial, next up is a country Americans think they understand until they actually retire there. 8. Philippines. The Philippines feel like they should be perfect for Americans. English is widely spoken, people are friendly, costs are low, there's a long history with the US. On paper, it checks a lot of boxes. But retirement isn't about friendliness alone. It's about systems. And that's where the cracks start to show. Healthcare is hit or miss. Step outside major cities and quality drops fast. Specialized care often means long travel, long waits, or both. And public hospitals? Not something most American retirees are prepared for. Infrastructure is another daily grind. Traffic is terrible. Power outages are common, flooding happens regularly. Over time, these small inconveniences stack up and wear you down. Then there's the climate. Typhoons are a real threat. And if you have joint pain, heart issues, or breathing problems, that constant humidity can be brutal. Culturally, the Philippines is warm and welcoming, but deep friendships can be harder than expected. Many retirees end up socially isolated, especially outside expat hubs. Before we move on, if you're finding this helpful, hit subscribe, and trust me, if you think the Philippines has surprises, just wait until you hear about the next country. 7. Spain. Spain feels familiar enough to be comfortable while still feeling European and exciting. That's exactly why it catches retirees off guard. Let's start with bureaucracy. Spanish paperwork is slow, confusing, and unforgiving. Residency renewals, banking, everything takes longer than you think and usually involves multiple in-person appointments. Miss a document? Start over. Healthcare is often praised, and rightly so, but access depends heavily on your residency status and region. Public healthcare can involve long wait times while private insurance becomes more expensive as you age. And navigating the system in Spanish is not optional. Taxes are another hidden punch. Spain can tax worldwide income, including pensions and investments, Many Americans don't realize this until they're already committed. Suddenly, that cheap European lifestyle doesn't feel so cheap anymore. Socially, Spain can feel welcoming but distant. Locals have tight-knit social circles, often built over decades, making deep friendships later in life is harder than people expect. Spain is amazing, just not always amazing for retirement. If that surprised you, buckle up. Because number 6 is a place Americans retire to constantly and still get blindsided. 6. Mexico. Mexico is easily the most common plan B for American retirees. It's close to home, flights are cheap, the food is amazing, and you can live very well on less money, at least at first. That familiarity is exactly why so many people underestimate the downsides. Safety is the elephant in the room. Mexico isn't one big danger zone, but it's also not predictable. Entire regions can feel calm for years and then change almost overnight. Roadblocks, armed police, military patrols, it can be jarring if you're not used to it. Then there's bureaucracy. Visas, residency renewals, property ownership rules. Many retirees end up hiring lawyers or facilitators just to keep things moving. That works until you realize how dependent you've become on other people to handle basic life admin. Culturally, Mexico is warm and welcoming, but integration takes effort. Outside expat communities, English drops off fast. And while locals are friendly, deep friendships can be slow to form, especially if you're not fluent in Spanish. Mexico can absolutely be a great place to retire, but it rewards flexibility and punishes complacency. If you're already living there, I'd love to hear your experience in the comments. And if this one made you pause, just wait, because the next country takes these challenges to a whole new level. 5. Turkey. Turkey is one of those countries that pulls Americans in fast. The food is unreal and the cost of living can feel almost suspiciously low. Compared to the US, you can rent a nice apartment, eat out constantly, and still feel like you're beating the system. But retirement isn't about how good life feels in year 1, it's about how stable it feels in year 10. The biggest issue in Turkey is unpredictability. The currency can swing wildly in a matter of months. Inflation spikes without warning. One year your fixed income feels comfortable, the next year you're quietly cutting back. For retirees who rely on pensions or savings, that kind of financial whiplash creates constant stress. Healthcare is often praised, and private hospitals in major cities can be very good. But navigating the system long-term is another story. Rules change, pricing changes. And unless you speak Turkish, you're relying heavily on translators or third parties for serious medical decisions. Residency rules, visa policies, and property regulations can shift quickly based on government decisions. Many retirees describe a lingering feeling of being temporary, no matter how long they've lived there. Integration takes real effort and sensitivity. Without it, you can feel like an outsider indefinitely. Turkey can be an incredible chapter. But retirement is supposed to be a landing, not a balancing act. And if this one surprised you, just wait, because number 4 flips expectations in a completely different way. 4. Brazil. Brazil looks like a retirement fantasy from the outside. Warm weather, beautiful beaches, lively cities, affordable food, and a culture that knows how to enjoy life. But living here long term, especially as you age, is a very different experience than visiting for a few weeks. Let's start with safety because it's impossible to ignore. Crime in Brazil isn't just about bad neighborhoods. It's layered into daily decision-making. What time you go out, what you wear, where you use your phone. Many retirees describe living with a low-level background anxiety that never fully turns off. You can adapt, sure, but adapting forever is exhausting. Healthcare is another mixed bag. Brazil has some excellent private hospitals in major cities like Sao Paulo and Rio, but access depends heavily on money and location. Outside major metro areas, quality drops fast. Visas, residency, banking, taxes, it all moves slowly and often requires in-person visits, multiple forms, and a lot of patience. And you absolutely need Portuguese. English is not widely spoken, even in big cities. Without language skills, everyday tasks can feel like mental marathons. Brazil is vibrant, emotional, and intense. Some people thrive in that energy. Others quietly burn out. And if you think that's tough, the next country adds a whole new layer of unpredictability. 3. Peru. Peru often gets marketed as a hidden gem for retirees. Low costs, rich history, incredible food. And cities like Lima feel modern and livable at first glance. But Peru has a way of wearing people down slowly, especially retirees who expect stability. Private clinics in Lima can be decent, but outside the capital, options become limited fast. Specialized care often requires travel, and emergency response times aren't what most Americans are used to. That's manageable when you're healthy, much less so when you're not. Infrastructure is another daily challenge. Traffic is chaotic. Public transportation is confusing. Power and water interruptions aren't rare. These things sound minor until they become part of your routine. Retirement is supposed to reduce stress, not introduce new forms of it. Bureaucracy in Peru is rigid and inconsistent at the same time. Rules exist, but enforcement can change depending on who you're dealing with, and patience is not optional. Peruvians are polite but reserved. Making close friendships as a foreign retiree takes time and cultural fluency. Spanish is essential, and even then, integration isn't guaranteed. Peru is fascinating and beautiful, but it often feels like a country that tolerates retirees rather than supports them. And if this one caught you off guard, just wait, because number two challenges the idea that cheaper is always better. 2. Bolivia. Bolivia is often mentioned in extreme budget retirement conversations. The prices sound unbelievable. Rent is low. Food is cheap. Daily expenses barely register. For retirees, Bolivia exposes the limits of chasing cost above everything else. Healthcare is the single biggest concern. Bolivia's medical system is underdeveloped. Infrastructure is another daily challenge. Inconsistent water supply, power outages, slow internet, these aren't rare inconveniences, they're part of normal life. Bureaucracy is unpredictable. Rules exist but aren't consistently enforced. Processes change depending on the office, the city, or even the mood of the person behind the desk. Legal protections for foreigners are limited and navigating disputes can feel risky. Socially, Bolivia can be isolating. Spanish is essential, but even fluent speakers often feel culturally distant. Bolivia is honest, raw, and challenging. It asks a lot from you, mentally and physically, and for most retirees, the trade-offs are simply too steep. If you think that's intense, number one takes everyday stress to an entirely different level. 1. South Africa. South Africa surprises people because it almost works perfectly for American retirees. English is widely spoken, the landscapes are stunning, the private healthcare system can be world-class, and the cost of living on paper looks very attractive. But daily life here comes with a level of vigilance that never really turns off. Crime isn't an occasional concern, it's a constant factor. Home invasions, carjackings, and violent crime shape how people live. Gated communities, armed response services, electric fences, these aren't luxuries, they're standard. Many retirees describe living well, but always on alert. That's not how most people imagine their later years. Infrastructure is another major issue. Rolling power outages known as load shedding are routine. You plan your day around electricity schedules. Roads and public services continue to decline. To maintain a comfortable lifestyle, retirees often pay privately for generators, security, and backup systems. Healthcare can be excellent, but only in the private sector and only if you can afford it long term. Public hospitals are overcrowded and under-resourced. As medical needs increase with age, costs rise quickly. Socially, South Africa carries deep inequality and unresolved tension. You feel it daily. Many retirees eventually realize they're living comfortably inside bubbles, separated from the broader reality of the country. South Africa is breathtaking, but retirement is about peace, not management. If any of these countries changed how you think about retiring abroad, make sure you're subscribed, because avoiding the wrong move can matter more than chasing the perfect one.